So what's up people, and welcome to another Warframe Beginner's Guide video. Now if you recall, in our last episode we went over the star chart and covered some of the basics with regards to that. In this episode I wanted to go over yet another station in the ship, and that is the modding station. Now the modding station is actually one of the most important stations in the ship, and it's also one of the most confusing, mostly because of the fact that mods are pretty confusing to a lot of new players. You get a lot of these mods that drop and you're not really sure what to do with them in the beginning. Eventually you start understanding that you can kind of put them onto your frame or weapons, but the modding station is a big mystery. You're like, what the heck is all this stuff? And why do I need a station, considering the fact that all I have to do is pick and choose in the arsenal which mod I want to put on. And of course the modding station turns out to be one of the most important stations in the ship because of the fact that you can of course start modifying your mods using the station. And how you mod your frame or weapons turns out to be very crucial to how you can actually perform your gameplay in the game. So what I wanted to do is cover the modding station during this episode, and once again, this is a beginner's guide, so for the veterans, you probably won't learn anything here that's new. Okay, so what are mods? Well, mods are these modules that you get during the missions. They drop during the missions and you start collecting them, and they're basically there to help enhance either your weapon or your frame. And of course, when you start out and look in the arsenal, you often see these empty slots here. And you find that, of course, your frame is limited in its capability. Well, what's interesting is as you start putting mods in, then you notice that you can enhance the capability, as you see in the green here, and improve the performance of your frame. Now, I haven't really worked on Volt here too much because I started working on Volt Prime instead, but overall you can still see here that with these mods this frame has become a lot more capable in its performance. And the mods can be there for various things, whether it's to improve the health or the durability of a frame, to of course improving the attack capabilities, various things, being able to perform the abilities with less energy, or being able to perform stronger abilities. Various different capabilities that are available to improve using the mods. Now, aside from the frame, your weapons also have the similar sorts of slots and its own set of mods that you can use to enhance the capability of these weapons. Now what's interesting is, of course, a lot of new players, when they start the game, they always think, I gotta get the best weapons, And although the weapons are quite important, it is actually more important to make sure that you have the appropriate mods to enhance these weapons, because as veteran players know, it's oftentimes the combination of the mods that really give you a capability for each of the weapons. And you could take almost any weapon, including the Mark I Bratton, and turn it into a halfway decent weapon if you have the proper set of mods, especially if you're still in the early parts of the game. I mean, you could turn the Mark I Bratton into a pretty devastating weapon if you have the appropriate mods. And the other good thing about the mods is, of course, that they work on a variety of different weapons. So if you have a good combination of mods, then you could get other weapons or switch out to other weapons, and you will still be able to get the ultimate performance out of that particular weapon. So a good combination of mods works very well because it works and enhances a multiple number of weapons and frames. So now when we come back to the modding station, the first purpose is that it lists all of the different mods that you have. And you could kind of sort them in different ways, and whether it's in price, whether it's in name, the different sorts of types, rank, And the one I tend to like to do is rarity, because then you could classify it into the very rare, the uncommon, and the common mods, as you see here. And of course, it turns out to be useful because if you're looking for one particular mod amongst the hundreds of different mods that you eventually will have, then it's really nice to be able to sort them under the different methods. Now, when you look at these, the mods will actually give you a description of what each one of these mods do, as well as the rank that it has. And the rank comes, as you can see here, as much as I have different forms of vitality. Why does it show the different forms of vitality? Well, they're separated into ranks. So if you see the dots at the bottom of the mod are different for each one of these, and that determines how many times you have ranked up a specific mod. So for example, like vitality, it has 10 levels of ranking that you can do, while in comparison, warm coat, as you can see here, only has 3 levels of ranking. So depending upon which mod you have, you could rank it up a little bit or quite a bit. And what you'll find is that as you rank it up, it'll become even more expensive to rank it to the next level, and that you will need your modding station to be able to rank any of these mods. And so now you start looking at the top of the menu here, and you'll find like 4 different options that you can choose. And one of them is, of course, there to rank up mods. So as you can see, as you choose or click on a mod, then you get these options to light up. And one of them is Fusion. And Fusion is there to actually rank up any specific mod. And to do so, it requires a certain amount of what you call endo, which you start collecting as you run missions, as well as credits, which you also start collecting as you run missions. And as you level up these things, then you could get quite a bit of endo and credit requirements to rank up a mod. As you can see in vitality here, it requires 10,000 endo and close to 500,000 amount of credits. So yeah, I mean, it will take a while to be able to rank up the mods, but as you can see here, you could do it one at a time. In the beginning, it's relatively inexpensive, and every rank up gives you a little bit more capability, so it's always worthwhile to do. Now in the beginning, it may be a little bit frustrating because of the fact that you won't have all of the mods that you really want to be able to maximize even your starter frame. And even if you get the mod like Vitality, of course you won't have enough of the endo or the credits to be able to even max out that particular mod. However, you know, you're starting out with the new missions, and for the new missions, you really don't need to have all that overly powerful frame to be able to complete the mission. And as you keep on playing the game, you know, you'll start getting a lot of different types of mods to drop from the different enemy. And of course, if you keep on playing, you know, like in my case right now, I have I guess about 27,000 different mods in my collection right now. Many of them are duplicates, and of course eventually you just start getting rid of your duplicates for extra endo. But as you can see, if you keep on playing, you eventually will get all of the mods that you need. So yeah, just keep on playing the game and add all of these mods that you require, and even the small amounts of additional mods that you get will help enhance your frame or weapon greatly. Now, aside from the limited number of slots that you have available for your mods, you also have a limited number of points, and as you put in more mods, you use up more points. Now, as you level up any frame, you start increasing the number of available points, and typically for any maxed out frame at rank 30, you'll have somewhere either 30 or 60 points available typically for any frame. And the number of points that you use up for a mod is given in the upper right hand corner, as you see here. And what's interesting is as your mod becomes stronger as you level up your mods, it starts using more points. So there is a cost associated with leveling up any of the mods. Now, as you can see here, Volt has 60 points available, and as you can see, as I put in a 12-point mod, you see that the 60 points has reduced to 48 available points. So what you have to do is you have to pick and choose the mods that you have available to be able to maximize the capability of the frame while keeping within the points availability of the frame. And that becomes more difficult as, of course, your mod levels go up or your frame ranking is low. So you do have to pick and choose carefully. Now, there are things that you can do to increase the availability of points, and the biggest one and the most common one is the Orokin reactor. So you can get these Orokin reactors as rewards for missions, and if you put one in, then it will double the amount of points available for any frame. So in this case, since the Orokin reactor is in, although the ranking is 30, I do have a doubling or a 60-point availability for this particular frame. In addition, each one of these mods has a specific polarity, and if you start polarizing your slots, as you see here, to the polarity of the mod you want to put in, then that mod will cost half as much in points as a typical slot or a non-polarized slot. So as you start getting familiar with your frame and understanding the capabilities of your frame, you start understanding which mods you eventually want to use to optimize the frame. And once you start understanding which mods, then you can look at the more common polarities that all the mods use and start polarizing your slots so that they match the polarities of those mods. And by doing that, then you could start maximizing the points that are available for any specific frame by using these polarity advantages of the mods that you want to use. Now, you do have to be careful in your choice of polarity, because if you choose the wrong polarity, then not only does it not give you the advantage of the polarity, but it actually costs you more points than putting that mod into an unpolarized slot. So especially for frames that has multiple mod configurations, you may have to limit the amount of polarization you do so that you can maximize the capabilities to any of the configurations that you set up. Now, how you actually polarize a slot is by the use of what is called a Forma. And by using a Forma, you can start polarizing one of these slots. Now, it does come with a cost. First of all, you do use up a Forma, and so you do have to get more to actually polarize more slots. But also, when you Forma a frame or a weapon, it goes back down to its 0 ranking. So you do have to rank it back up again to maximum rank to be able to, optimize the frame once more. Now, the one last way you could get a few more points is by using these aura mods, or these special mods called aura mods. And unlike the standard mods, which will use up mod points when you put them in, these aura mods will actually give back mod points as you use them. And as you use higher ranking mods, it'll actually give back more points. So yeah, these are special mods that improve or increase the capabilities of your frame, and each one of these is slightly different. You can use whichever one you feel is the most suitable for your particular playstyle. Now, some of them are pretty popular, like corrosive projection and all, but in any case, any of these aura mods will actually give you more points. So it's actually quite beneficial to start collecting aura mods and then maxing them out as much as possible, because the higher the ranking, the more points you get back. And that by itself is worth putting these aura mods into that one particular special space where you can get points back. And of course, just like with any other mod, the better the polarity, the more points that you will actually get back. So once again, if you find that you want to use a specific aura mod and the slot is of a wrong polarity, then you can Forma that slot to actually change it to the right polarity. Now all this time I kept mentioning that you should just Forma a slot to change its polarity, so of course people may ask, what exactly is a Forma? Well, a Forma is a utility component similar to the Orokin catalyst or the Orokin reactor, and you do have to make them in the foundry as you see here. They drop from missions and you can start collecting them, and as for each Forma you can polarize one specific slot in a frame or a weapon. And so they're things that you can start collecting. They're not the easiest things to get. The most common way people get them is through void missions. But in any case, they're not the easiest things to get and make. So you do have to be a little bit careful on how you plan to choose your Forma to optimize your frame or weapon. But if you do so, then of course then you can start maximizing the points available for any frame or weapon. So like with every other item in Warframe, as you continue to grind through a variety of different missions and collecting a lot of different mods, then you can start optimizing your frames. And of course, by fusing and ranking up your mods, then you can continuously gain a lot of capabilities to your frames and weapons through your mods. Now, eventually you'll start getting a lot of mods that you find that you don't really need, and you wonder what you can do with them. Well, you basically can sell them, and the typical way, of course, is to sell them for credits, but the other is to be able to sell them for endo. Now it's called dissolve here, but it's basically selling these mods for, instead of credits, endo. And as much as in the beginning you think credits are important, eventually you'll find out that endo is oftentimes a lot harder to get. So even these junk mods become quite useful because of the fact that as you keep using them or collecting them, then you could eventually exchange them for endo. Now, to give you a quick example of just how useful mods can be to any frame or weapon, I have taken all the mods off of my Guandao. And I figured that I could try using this unmodded weapon against a typical enemy. So let's take a single arid heavy gunner, and as you can see from the settings, I set it to level 50. So a single level 50 arid heavy gunner. As you know, since the Guandao is a slash weapon, it doesn't particularly work too well against a heavily armed enemy like a arid heavy gunner. As you can see here, Volt's having a pretty hard time with this, and yeah, I mean, he's giving it his best effort, but if he wasn't in his invincibility mode, he would have been killed several times over trying to kill this heavy gunner. Yeah, this weapon just isn't doing much of anything to this particular enemy. Well, we'll see how far it takes before he can kill her, but whoa! Oh, look at that! She fell through the ledge. Well, you get the idea. Now this time, if you were to take the same Guandao, but put in the appropriate mods into it, and use the same level 50 arid heavy gunner, then despite the fact that it is still a slash weapon, which is in a disadvantage for any heavily armored enemy like the arid heavy gunner, it can work a lot better. So as you can see here, he's basically finished. And that's a lot different from what we observed before. So as you can see, mods can significantly change the capability of any frame or weapon. Now, one final thing, if you ever wanted to know which mods drop from which enemy, one way you can do it is to go into your codex. And if you fully scan the specific enemy, it will list all the different mods that actually drop from that enemy. So yeah, by scanning a lot of these enemies, you can start gathering a list of all the different mods that drop from the enemy. Now, to be honest, this isn't the most convenient way to do it, and there are two other ways that are more convenient. The easiest way, if you could get people to respond to you, is to just go to the chat area and ask people which enemies drop which mods. You do have to be a bit specific or people might get upset. The other way, of course, is to go to the Warframe wiki and just find out which enemies drop any particular mod that you're looking into. But anyway, if you really wanted to find out from in-game, then one way is to look in the codex. Anyway, that's about it with regards to the modding basics. These are just basics. You know, there's a lot more things that even your modding station can do, such as going into your Ayatan treasure inventory. But I'll leave that to some other video maybe. In any case, I hope you found this video to be somewhat useful, and I thank you very much for watching the video. And we'll continue to make more of these beginner guide videos in the future. And if you are still in need of information, I hope some of these videos are useful as well in the future. In any case, I wish you good luck to the gameplay of Warframe. And I hope you join us in our future Warframe videos. Until that time, happy hunting. And as always, Jaya, nice day, everyone.